Following a strenuous morning routine of denture and plug maintenance, alleged Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden calls it quits for the day on average of 3 times a week. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green and with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle. Asking the question today, where the hell is Joe Biden? I wish I were kidding about this, but gentlemen, on Monday and Tuesday, I kept coming across a political expression that I knew but couldn't remember because it had been so long since I had heard it. And it's call a lid. And that's when a candidate tells the press that, hey, we're calling a lid for the day. There will be no more campaigning, no more press appearances. The candidate is going to go, these days, back into his basement and hide out for a while. Well, for the rest of the day, actually. And Biden is doing this on average 3 days a week, every other day by some measures. Scott, let me read you something I found on Town Hall earlier on Tuesday. A day after the Biden campaign announced a lid at 8:30 in the morning and took the whole day off, a well-rested Biden stumbled out of his basement to say something, this is the next day, that should truly sound the alarm over the state of Biden's mental faculties, in case it wasn't loud enough before. Then Biden said, it's estimated that 200 million people will die probably by the time I finish this talk. Except I just gave that little line all kinds of energy and emphasis. Joe Biden, the words kind of stumbled out of his mouth. My friend Reaganette on Twitter, she said either they know the courts will help them with the mail-in ballots and he has to get his strength before the debates, or they think Biden not being out there is better than him being out there speaking and gaffing. What do you say about a candidate who either doesn't care enough or doesn't have faculties enough to be out there campaigning every day energetically the way certain other presidential contenders are?
Well, and just to clarify so our viewers can understand, when Biden said that by the time he was done that talk, some 200 million people would have died, he was referring to the coronavirus, not the talk itself.
I believe so. Because his Twitch streams and stuff get like 3-digit, 4-digit sometimes numbers of viewers. So there's no way 200 million people were watching this thing.
He has previously suggested that 120 million people had already died. So this is kind of the second time where he had a problem about where you put the comma and where you put the decimal when it comes to numbers. It's an interesting campaign strategy. So when you've got some guy who's not a dynamo and your philosophy is that the guy on the other side is killing himself, the old saying, if somebody's digging their own grave, just stand back and hand them a shovel. And so that seems to be the play they're making here and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Biden's ability to perform on the stump, although he seems to have little of that. But it's really this idea of let's let Donald Trump dominate the news cycle because he's killing himself. Now, unfortunately, what they don't understand is he's killing himself with people he's been dead to for a long time. He's not killing himself with people who got him elected. He's not killing himself with a lot of people who didn't vote for him last time, who are going to vote for him this time because they were kind of surprised at how things went after he got elected, and at least up until March of this year. So I think it's a wrong campaign decision, but not an illogical campaign decision that they're making at this point. So, and the idea that you're going to put a full lid on at 8:30 in the morning just sounds like kind of the future that Democrats want for all unionizing government employees going forward. We really need a lot more vacation time, a lot more paid time off, and a lot more national holidays.
Hey, Scott, let me give you a quick follow-up because you mentioned him not being very exciting on the stump. But I got to tell you, I watched the guy in 2008 and 2012 when he was Barack Obama's running mate, and I never agreed with a single thing he said. But he was sent out there while Obama did, his cool, suave thing. They sent Biden out there to rally the troops, and he was pretty damn good at it. Where's that guy?
Compared to the kind of aloofness that Barack Obama could project when he wasn't really giving his all to do a barn burner speech, Joe Biden seemed like a ball of fire. And in addition to that, it was Biden out there selling Obama, which was a much better product from the perspective of the average Democrat. Now Biden's out there selling Biden's own self, and that's just not as great a pitch. He doesn't have as good of a product to represent. And, the old saying is great advertising can get somebody to try a product once, But once they've had the product, then they evaluate it not based on the word that's coming from the advertising, but based on their actual experience.
Yeah, the punchline of the old advertising joke that the dogs won't eat the dog food.
Yeah,
I think we got some of that going on. Bill, got some stuff for you. Joe Concha noted that with 42 days left, this is on Tuesday, there really are just 42 days until Election Day. Biden campaign again calls a lid on the day. No events, no questions. If Trump wins, we'll look back on the strategy of playing not to lose as a key factor. And some Democrats who can accurately gauge the feeling on the ground know it. And this is me now. One of those Democrats on the ground who's noticing this is none other than our friend Michael Moore, who sounded the alarm in an interview, I think it was over the weekend. He said it's actually worse than Hillary. He's talking about Biden's ground operation in Michigan specifically. At least there was a ground game, even though she didn't show up. There were Hillary offices in many towns. There were door-to-door campaigns. So Hillary chose her places to campaign poorly, as they say, but she had a serious ground game. She opened record numbers of offices, pushed record numbers of doorbell. The Biden campaign has said they have pushed 0 doorbells, none. They're not doing any kind of ground game in the traditional sense. So other than not being out on the stump and other than not having any kind of ground game, I don't even know how to finish this question, Bill.
I'll take over from here.
Thank you.
Ever since you did the introduction just a few moments ago, it's just a quick point of order, and then I'll answer your question. You were talking that you said he was working on his hair plug and denture maintenance. He at some point in the past, we all know that Joe Biden had those really scary kind of first generation kind of horror doll hair plugs.
Oh man!
And those have been removed. And I was just curious, what is the name of that procedure? Is that called an exhumation? What is that? What is that actual procedure called?
It's repotting.
Anyway, now that we got that out of the way, I come back to Whittle's Law, which becomes more and more ironclad truth every single day. Whenever you see something where the optics are so poor that you cannot explain it, the answer is that the alternative's optics would be worse. And that's why you haven't seen much of Joe Biden. That's why Joe Biden doesn't do live events. That's why Joe Biden is off the clock at 8 o'clock in the morning. And if they keep moving that up, it's going to approach that line in that Four Yorkshiremen sketch where they're all trying to talk about who got up earlier. One guy says, well, I got up 4 hours before I went to bed. So, you can only walk that clock back so far, Steve. This is such a strange time. This will be considered the age of nonsense. So that's the Bronze Age, Iron Age, Steel Age of nonsense, and then nothing makes sense. And the cynicism of running Joe Biden is so and has been so shocking to me. This entire strategy is so shocking. And we all knew that the press was in their pocket. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't know that the press was in their pocket. But when you see Biden in an interview saying, I'm sorry, what was that? We scroll up one. And they're saying, no, it's okay, Joe, we'll talk about it later. You realize that this is the end of a system that is simply done. They cannot. This has been true from the moment the three of us started doing Trifecta back at PJTV. The only time that the press cannot get in front of the candidate and the American people, with the exception of Candy Crowley, is during the debates. It's the only time when the press has to sit down and shut up while the two candidates are talking. And when this happens, I think this is one of Scott's topics this week is like debate
preparation
advice. So I'm not going to get too deep into that. But when you've got a guy who has to fold the tent at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and the campaign admits it, and when he can't do more than a 3 or 4 minute canned speech and then is helicoptered out of there, it is a reinforcement to not what we already know, but it's also a reinforcement to the Democrats that the guy at the top of the ticket is not is not capable of driving a car, let alone running the country. And that cannot be lost on some level. You can't build a house on that much cynicism and keep anything but the most hardcore cynics, So I think that they have no choice but to keep Biden under the lid. And the more he talks with a 4-minute lid, he's doing enough damage to himself to make you realize that I simply don't know what's going to happen in the debate, but I suspect it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, actually, before I wrap, let me give myself a brief plug. I will be drunk blogging live the first presidential debate next Tuesday,
Hooray.
The 29th of September, pjmedia.com. So click on over for that. It'll be a lot of fun. Laugh a minute, I promise. Or at least I'll try. There'll be cocktails anyway. You can drink along with me. Running for president is one of the most grueling jobs in the world. It actually starts traditionally the day after the previous president is sworn into office. At least in the background, you got to get your PACs lined up, you got to get your fundraisers lined up, you got to get your bundlers lined up, and all the rest. When the campaign begins in earnest, that is in January or even December, the year before the election in November. And before that, you are in Iowa, you are in New Hampshire, you are working your ass off for hours and hours a day for months and months and months before the first primary vote is held, before the first caucus vote is held. And then you've got to maintain that pace. Candidates used to take the summer off between the end of the primary season and the beginning of the presidential race on Labor Day, and that's over. It is 24/7, 365, really for a good 2 years to run for president of the United States. It's one of the most demanding jobs that has ever existed. And the reason for that is the most demanding job in the world is president of the United States. And there's no way you can actually prepare yourself for the grueling nature of the job, the fact that you have the nuclear button with you at all times, the stress of it. How many presidents have gone in with dark hair and come out with gray hair? Pretty much all of them except for Washington, and he was wearing a wig. So the reason our primary process is so hard and so grueling is it's really the only way to find out if these candidates are up to the real job. And we saw enough of Hillary Clinton with her weird coughs and her falling down and all the rest to know that she wasn't up for the job in 2016. We haven't even seen that much of Joe Biden in 2020. If you're voting for him, you're voting for a walking corpse, and you in good conscience cannot do that, my friend. And that is your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. I just want to remind you that content like this needs sponsors like you. So if you're on a member already, you've been doing this for free, please click over to BillWhittle.com. Become a member. We would love to have you on board. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.